Picture this, you're halfway through an intense boss fight, totally in the zone, your dodges are perfect, your reflexes razor sharp, or what about you're just exploring some faraway planet's cave, just really basking in the scenery, you're driving along, going for a lap record, but then out of nowhere, you get a slideshow. Welcome to the wonderful world of cloud gaming, where your skills don't matter, but your Wi-Fi does. Today, I'm trying to play and summarise the three major cloud gaming services, Xbox Cloud Gaming, GeForce Now, and Boosteroid, to find out which one's worth your time, money, and patience. And first up is Xbox Cloud Gaming. This one's part of Game Pass Ultimate, which in the UK is £14.99 per month. Now there's many ways to play. You can use your Amazon Fire TV, you got Android, iPhones, iPads. There's so much compatibility. I'm sure you'll find something that you can play on. In terms of internet requirements, what I found here is 10 megabytes per second for mobile devices and 20 megabytes per second for consoles, PCs and tablets. Now, one of the good things about Xbox Cloud Gaming straight away, which was a great thing in my eyes, is that you don't need to buy your own games. So any game that you want to play that's a part of Game Pass Ultimate, you can play straight away. Think of GeForce Now like renting a high-end gaming PC in the cloud. So this time you have a free tier. Now the catch is you have limited sessions, which are limited to 1 hour per session. Then you have the performance tier, which is £9.99 a month, which has shorter queues and better specs. And then you have the ultimate, which is £19.99 per month. But what they say about this one is you have an RTX 4080, which is capable of up to 4K 120 FPS with near zero latency. Now in terms of internet requirements, this one had a lot more information, but I've kind of summed it up as 15 megabytes per second for 720p at 60 FPS, and then 35 plus megabytes per second for 4K 120 FPS. Now I say you have to own the game, but it also has to be available on the library as well. But the library is also huge, and I'm sure you'll find the game that you own, or a game that you want to play. They regularly update the list and they're always adding games. And finally, we have Boosteroid. And just like GeForce Now, you have to actually own the game in order to be able to play it on this service. However, one of the big differences that I have noticed was no session time limits. Again, it shows you all the different ways to play. So you've got your browser, you've got a desktop app, you can play it on your TV, your iPads, your phones, your tablets. Now the prices here are shown in euros, but it is important to note that this pricing was part of a special promotion that was only running until April the 1st of 2025. So normally the pricing would be €14.89 for 1 month or $13.32 per month for 12 months. In terms of internet requirements, Boosteroid actually say in their FAQs you need at least 15 megabytes per second. And in terms of game library, there actually is quite a large selection of games, and again this is updated regularly, so I'm sure you'd find the game that you want to play. So, on to my findings. So first up was Xbox Cloud Gaming, and straight away as I'm jumping out of the plane you can already see it's stuttering a little bit. It really does take away from the immersion. This is not the video, this is not bad capture quality, this is actually how it was streaming to my computer. Which meant, as you can imagine, this was not a great experience. Then I compared it to the app. And I thought this was just me, but you can actually see the picture quality is a little bit better. Now in my browser, which was Google Chrome, I did make sure to use graphics acceleration. I turned it on, I turned it off, it was the same. The contrast was slightly different. Now it was still stuttering a little bit, but it actually wasn't as bad as the browser. So for Xbox, I would say if you were going to use this, use the app. Next, I decided to try a bit of Assassin's Creed, so a different type of game. Instead of racing, it was more story driven, a bit of combat, you know. And I would say there was a tiny bit of stuttering, but it was nowhere near as prominent. The ping was the exact same between the two games, and the bitrate was the same as well. It was hovering around 12 megabytes per second. My experience playing this game was a lot better. Everything was happening as I was pressing the buttons on my controller, but I think this highlights the fact that it can be quite inconsistent on a game per game basis. Now things got interesting when I put it on my iPad. So this was a test over Wi-Fi, and let me tell you, this was so smooth. So the resolution this time was 720p, but this doesn't take away anything else, so the ping was the same as on the computer. And in terms of latency, for both on the iPad and on the PC, it was actually really good. Now obviously I'm not going to be playing competitive shooters, but for story driven games or racing games or any other game, it was actually very much doable. I didn't notice any negative effects. Next up was GeForce Now. I was so looking forward to this, so I started up a game and the dreaded waiting queues. So this is definitely a thing on GeForce Now free tier. I didn't think it would be so bad, so I waited, and lo and behold, it was only 2 minutes and 45 until I was at the game. Weren't too bad for the first go, right? The first thing I noticed straight away was the picture quality was so much better, but then I was quickly thrown back down to earth when the lag and the stuttering all started. You can see in the top right corner the ping was 42, even on the app it's showing yellow. Even the game FPS was 40, so it doesn't even matter that it's showing 55 for the stream or 60 for the stream. The actual game was running at around 40. Then I was put into another queue of 66 people ahead of me. I tried to stay here for a good few minutes, but it wasn't even going down, so you know what? I've made my mind up. I'm not using GeForce Now free. I have to try the Ultimate. And what a difference that made instantly. I mean, you can tell straight away it's so smooth, and then you realise it's running at 120 FPS in game. The stream is 120 FPS. The ping is down to 21. Or even in Assassin's Creed here, went down to 18 or 19 average. It was absolutely amazing. The picture quality was perfect as well. I mean, I really couldn't fault it. The latency was also very good, so every time I was pressing a button on a controller, it didn't take long at all for it to get to the screen, so it was very much an enjoyable experience, I gotta say. However, going over to the iPad, it didn't quite translate, so the picture quality, yes, was amazing. You might be able to make it out from these videos, but it was definitely playable and the latency wasn't too bad, but it didn't seem smooth. So this is definitely something to think about, but if you're going to use this just on your PC or your laptop, for example, then this is definitely one of the top picks. Finally, it's Boosteroid, and instantly you can see the picture quality is absolutely fantastic. I was actually blown away. The bitrate was a bit higher, so that automatically explains why the picture quality was better than GeForce Now Ultimate. And I do have to point out that this might be an issue for slower internet speeds, but if you do have the internet, then this is definitely great. So you can see the fluctuations in latency at the top as well, and I will say that this was noticeable in game, but it wasn't bad, it wasn't the end of the world, you know, it was noticeable, but I could still play the game. So I tried a more demanding game, which was Starfield. There's two things going on here. Instantly the bitrate was even higher, so this was at 80 megabytes per second. It was running in 4K and it was running at 120 FPS, so you could argue that you probably don't need that for this game, but it was an enjoyable experience. Until I had to use this gun and start being precise with my aiming, and I did start to notice that it was quite hard to control this time. It was only slightly annoying, and I guess that's just a small gripe on my side because I'm used to low latency FPS shooters, but if you're not into that and you usually play slow paced games, then you might actually be alright. Now there are wait times on this as well, but it wasn't as bad as GeForce Now 3. Going on to the iPad, again, this was really good. I mean, the picture quality still held up. It was definitely the best picture quality of the three that I've tested. The bitrate was averaging 40, which is, you know, not crazy high, not crazy low. The stream FPS was 60 FPS and the latency was quite steady around 30. So overall, it was a really nice experience. And if you have the internet capacity, then I can't see going wrong with this at all. In conclusion, how I would sum this up is, if you're using small factor portable devices like an iPhone, an iPad, a tablet, things like that, then I would actually say Xbox Cloud Gaming, because the latency was good, the resolution was lower, but that works because you're on a smaller factor, and it was actually the smoothest on my iPad as well. If you were using your PC, I would say GeForce Now Ultimate. It is more expensive, I know, but the performance you get and the quality you get is absolutely amazing. Finally, I just want to disclaim that it is cloud gaming at the end of the day, and my Ethernet and Wi-Fi will be different than yours, so please do your own testing, but this is definitely a good starting point. Cloud gaming is definitely improving fast. Do you have similar findings to me? Drop a comment below, I'd definitely like to hear your thoughts. And let me know if there's anything else you want me to explore. And subscribe if you would like to see more, it would really support the channel. And with that, I'll see you next time.